What is up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Camera Junkie live stream. As always, I will be your host. My name is Luis, also known as Mr. Camera Junkie, where I always remind you to upgrade your skills before your gear. And with that being said, as tradition goes around here, the first thing we do is go ahead and check out to see who's hanging out in the chat. And then if it is your first time here, welcome. Please be sure to introduce yourself in the chat so that you can get the nice Camera Junkie crew welcome. And so that we can all know who you are. You understand? Don't be a stranger. Make sure to, introduce yourself down there. And if you have any questions, that's exactly where you'll put them. And with that being said, let's go to the chat. All right. All right. Hey, we got John in the house saying, hey, Lewis and crew, first in the chat for a change. We're watching from our Starlink uplink. Nice. On a remote cabin in the island. You know what? I have this window here specifically for comments. So let's go ahead and use that because there we go. It says, on a remote cabin in an island. That is so cool. And it says, woohoo, Lewis. And a great streak is going soon, 200. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is actually episode 180. So that is 180 consecutive weeks of the Camera Junkie live stream without skipping a beat, which is something that I'm very proud of. But it's also really easy when this is the favorite place for me to be week in and week out. So all right, so I guess we got some people saying what's up to each other. And look at how John says. He says, as you guys pop in and out, please don't forget to hit the like button. Highly appreciate it. And I always forget to ask, so please do so. All right, we also have Jim in the house saying hello, happy Saturday to me and to everyone. We also have Obs hanging out here. She's saying she's misspelling somebody's name wrong. All right, everybody's saying hi to each other, saying hey Luis. We got Mr. Moderator in the house as well, saying what's up to the fam. Parker Jennings also in here hanging out. Jeremy, what's up, brother? All right, and someone new, say Galloping Horse. Hello, Luis. Hello, fam. It's me, Ashley. Well, Ashley, welcome. This is the first time that I've seen you comment on the live stream, so welcome to the stream and welcome to the hangout. Today is kind of like my birthday weekend celebration, so we're just hanging out. Usually I have a topic at hand and I usually have a soliloquy, but today I basically just have one thing, which is the information that I have posted up here, right, which is what I'm actually utilizing. So if you were here last week, then you know that I was gifted an amazing gift of the Sony FX30, which as you can see here, I've actually set up. Now, to go back to it, this is the camera that I had in its place, which is my everyday goer for the stream, which is my Sony a6100. But as you can see, to get it to do what I wanted to do, I had to pretty much put a cage and start kitting it out with a lot of different accessories, like, you know, a USB or HDMI micro to HDMI full size, so that I can actually have a better connection. All of these things that I've kind of done to this camera are pretty much already part of the package in the FX30, including the Q20 connections that I kind of superimpose here with placing on the cage. So going back to that shot, the FX30 here has the ability to just attach my Ulanzi quick claw clips right onto it, and now it's mounted into my same arm. As you can see, this cabling back here, that's from the a6100, but now instead of connecting it to the adapter HDMI, it gets plugged right into the body. This is the flip out screen. Even though I prefer flip up, it's very useful to see and to just kind of make sure that you are, you know, framed correctly. But like, you know me, I never really advise to be looking at the displays either on top or on the side. You basically just want it to reference to make sure that you're in frame and you are where you want to be. But I'm one of those avid believers that you should never look at yourself, because then you're looking at the screen to the side and looking past your viewers or the person that you're trying to communicate with when you're creating content. But as we continue, underneath where I would normally put the tripod is where I'm able to put my second Ulanzi quick claw clip, and that one is connected to my HD monitor, or my HD monitor, but I'm using it as a teleprompter, right? So the images are swapped, and that's what you see here as this big chunkus thing right on top here is the teleprompter aspect. So HD monitor underneath, teleprompter on top, and all being held and housed within the FX30. So I'm just gonna bring it in here a little bit. Let me see if I could give you a better shot of it on the behind the scenes, so you can see everything that's going on, and it's all like built in. So the FX30 is like very convenient and very compact. I also have this power cable that you see running around here. That's just a USB-C to basically replace a dummy battery temporarily, so that the camera won't run out of juice while we're doing a live stream. So just in case you go past an hour, like I sometimes tend to do on these live streams, then you don't have to worry about the camera shutting down on you, because of the simple fact that you have a, you know, external power source and it's able to trickle charge it at the same time. All right, let's back over here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so with that being said, we got the FX30 teleprompter rig setup. I'm using my manual lens setup. So this is my Quantaray. It's the 19 to that up there. Quantaray 19 to 35 f3.5 to 4.5 with my KNF, sorry, Pro Mist 1/4, and that's the look that we're getting here. But on top of that, at this section right here, for the Sony FX30 doing 4K 30 at 10-bit 422. Now, I already can tell you that I can tell the difference night and day between the 10-bit and the 8-bit when it comes to the internal recording or the recording files onto the memory cards. So when I'm editing footage and I'm recording to the memory cards, getting all the juiciness of the 10-bit, you know, color or the 10-bit log footage on the FX30, and I throw it into Final Cut Pro, it's so easy. It's so easy because it's so good. And using the S-Cinetone, you know, like LUTs and look on it, man, the image is amazing. But at the same time, we're using it right now as a webcam. So the quality of the 10-bit 422. I'm going to see how it holds up comparative to what I normally get out of my A6100, because at this point it's still being kind of dumbed down by the capture card that I'm using. So even though I'm using the Elgato Camlink, man, I almost forgot the name. Woof. Okay, the Elgato Camlink 4K, which does allow 4K 30 to be, you know, processed and then be utilized, which is how I'm able to get such a good quality image out of the 6100. I want to see if there's actual difference in the colors and what being pumped out through the live stream using the 10-bit color like codec. So I'm really gonna see if there's a difference between, you know, just the image that I'm getting here compared to the image that I'm getting here, because this is also 8-bit. But once again, they're being captured by the same type of Camlink 4K card, and that right there is going to be the determining factor when it comes to the live stream. So I'm also running some tests to see if there's actual like differences between the image and the colors that we're getting, you know, running straight through Ecamm and through the Camlinks. But like I was saying before, I can totally tell a difference when it comes to the footage being offloaded from the memory cards straight into Final Cut Pro, and then having to convert, you know, like the log footage to the correct color gamut. And at that moment is just like, boom, everything's so easy. Like if you want to, you know, brighten up a shot, you're not gonna like, your colors and stuff are not just gonna break down, because you need to, you know, increase the ISO, so to speak, of the shot when you have a, or better said, when you're utilizing your dynamic range to its fullest potential using the 10-bit. So that's exactly what we're running right now. We have a plethora of cameras. This one is, like I said, the FX30 with all the information there. Right here, we have our Sony a7R II with the Tamron 28mm f2.8. Right here, this is our iPhone XR continuity camera. That's the BTS. And then right here, we have our Sony ZV-1F. Man, this got me messed up from Discord earlier today. Thanks, Jeremy. But the Sony ZV-1F via USB-C coming in at 720p HD. And that's basically my setup. Now, there are some changes that I'm planning to make, because this one's coming in at, you know, just, oh, I hit it and I did something wrong. So let's fix it. Okay, good. So I am thinking of just upgrading now that I have a little bit more to play with, because I do have my A6600, which I can mess around with and just utilize as my overhead camera, which, to give you a little bit of context, is something that I actually do. So to go back to the behind the scenes cam, I'm just gonna raise it a bit. Right here, you can see that above my ZV-1F, I have my A6600, and I have it mounted right on top, so they're kind of like in line. And whenever I'm making, bring it back down. Whenever I'm making my Amazon overhead videos, you know, even though I'm getting a 720p from the ZV-1F, I actually want the highest quality video because I want 4K imagery. So what I do is that I take the video capture card, right? And the one that I have for this camera here, camera B, and I disconnect it from the back, and I connect it actually to this other camera, which is also there connected via HDMI, allowing me to utilize the A6600, which is an amazing camera, utilize all of its power and potential with your with the 4K, you know, 4K 30, the whole thing. And then at that same time, I'm pumping it out to a capture card that's actually able to get all that information. And I have a different profile set up on my Ecamm to do my overhead videos for Amazon. So that's how I have it set up, and it makes things just easy and just flow better. So that's pretty much my setup in a nutshell, and that's excluding audio, because with audio that's definitely gets complicated. But be on the lookout for a video coming soon of my setup, because I am going to document it. Tom Buck asked me for a video on my behind the scenes and how I have everything set up, so I'm going to go ahead and make a video on that to see if it helps anyone out on how, you know, to simplify a somewhat complicated audio and video setup. And at the same time, I want to kind of like document it so that once I make all these new changes to it, right, and see what I do with the camera, so on and so forth, that I will also have it, you know, like as a memory of like how I had my setup before. Because, you know, there's some things that I kind of like neglect, like my PreSonus like studio monitors. You know, they're the 3.5 inch, but I've had them for over 2 years, and these things are amazing. I use them all the time, like obviously every day, to pump something out, because on top of this being my computer and my creation station, it's also my media consuming station. Like, I was just speaking with someone yesterday that that'll be left for a secret till next week, but that in this conversation I was speaking that I no longer watch secular television. You understand? Like, all of my entertainment is done through YouTube. So instead of paying cable accounts and stuff like that, you know, like I don't have HBO Plus or Max or any of these like streaming networks. My streaming network is YouTube, and you're seeing it right now. So I actually have a YouTube family account, which instead of paying for the YouTube premium for $15 a month, I pay $26 a month, and I am allotted up to 6 YouTube channels to have ad free and to just be completely like, you know, free of the new nuisances of advertisements on YouTube. And that's my monthly installment, so to speak, to my entertainment. And it's because I have a variety of different YouTube channels, including one for Aiden. And one of the things that sucked was that, you know, when I would play stuff for him, commercials would pop up. So that's when I found the family plan that allowed me to put his YouTube account as well into that. And now I didn't have to worry about like pressing like skip an advertisement or anything whenever he was being entertained. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell. But it also helps me out because I also have like my YouTube channel for my car, and the one that I just recently made that's soon to go public for my Ecamm en Español. And whenever I'm on those, you know, channels and I'm utilizing them and I want to watch a video, it sucks that that account, because it's being new, kind of automatically starts getting advertisements, and then having to skip through all these videos, which is, like I said, the way that I get entertainment. So I definitely invested in that. I don't have any other streaming channels or anything like that. I stream YouTube, so I pay for premium, and it allows me to watch all my content ad free. And trust me, I watch a lot of content because I'm always either being educated, entertained, or edutained. And at the same time, I'm also constantly creating on the platform and studying it to see exactly how it's working, what's working, so on and so forth. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And let's go back to the chat to see exactly what you guys are talking about. Oh, we got DTM. The Daily Man is in the house. How you doing, Carlos? He called me Iron Man. So what's up, Iron Man? Iron Streak, at least. Iron Streak. I said, we talking FX30. Absolutely. This thing is a monster, bro. Like the ability to record log footage and then to be able to apply the LUTs on top of it so that you can see the color grades. One button for, you know, zebras, however you want to say it. One button for focus peaking. So much customization. And I just learned that that's like a joystick on top of the camera. There's a joystick. That's exactly what we used to call them on the back of of the cameras. Like I remember the old Canon cameras that you would just have like a joystick analog selector. So the top part, there's this like, the best way I could explain it, and it almost even looks like it now that I'm thinking about it, the old school laptops. Now, you know, if you're of a certain vintage, similar, closer to my age or older, you remember certain laptops, and most of them were the Lenovo Think laptops that actually had a integrated mouse within the keyboard. And it was just this little red dot, and the red dot had these spikes on it, and it's just like a little like stippling, so to speak, and those dots, that was the mouse. You would press on it, and wherever you would force it, your mouse cursor would end up moving to it. So depending on how much pressure you would put, it would depend on how fast your mouse would move, so on and so forth. So the FX30 basically has one of these joysticks that allow you to navigate the menu while using the front facing screen, right? And allows you to navigate the menus and clicking in and out using this joystick. Now, it also allows you to select when you click down onto it, and that's basically all that I was using it as of, you know, for the first week. Like I didn't even realize it was a joystick, and I was just using the button functionality to basically create a custom button. So I'm like, this thing is amazing. Even little nuances like that, like it has a fully integrated joystick, even though it has fully touch capability on the LCD screen. It's got all the functions that you could ever want and imagine. This thing is a powerhouse, like next level. So once again, I'm still gonna see if there's a big difference even through the live streaming between 8-bit and 10-bit, but we're doing that as we speak. Oh, tech for your needs, Nano's in the house, brother. It's been a while. Pleasure to have you. Peter Greg is also here saying hi, Luis. Nice setup and looking good. Thank you, and thank you. Says that FX30 is sweet. Highly recommend as a great camera for sure. Listen, this thing is next level, and I already have plans to kit this thing out to no end. So that actually brings up another thing, which is something that Mr. Moderator Paul Duncan asked me to do last week, and I was able to do, and I'll share that with you now, which is my 2024 birthday Amazon wish list. Yeah, so but we have a question from Jim. It says, what's holding up the FX30? Looks like it's floating. Oh, actually, let me give you a behind the scenes. That's basically how I set up my tripod. It technically is floating. What I have done is that, because I don't have a lot of space, and this right here behind me is the wall, right? I don't have the ability to mount a tripod, and if I did, you know, the legs extending will have the pole coming out basically in the middle of the table. Second, if I try to put something holding from the back of the desk, so to speak, the way that it's made on the back end, it has like a 6-inch gap, so to speak, or block that it's not actual table. So I couldn't get anything to clamp, because the clamp would then need to be bigger than 6 inches, so to speak, like, and it would need to go under and then actually climb up to be able to pinch to the 1 inch on the top, which is the actual desk. So because I didn't have those options, I went creative, and I'm gonna take it down slightly so you can see. When I disconnect here, just to demonstrate, I have a cheese plate. Oh, the cable went right in front of it. Let's move this stuff out of the way. I got a cheese plate from Amazon, right, which has 1/4-20 threads onto it. And in some of the holes, I actually anchored, you know, like some screws onto the wall. So it is now part of the wall, and it is flush with it. That allowed me to attach my 1/4-20 magic arms, which allow me to move my setup from either this magic claw here or this one. The one on top is what I use for my live streams and for a lot of my content creation. Oh, that camera is crooked right now. Let's go back to it to see how bad it is. Okay, it's not too bad. It was just the teleprompter aspect, right? So going back to it to show you, this setup up here is that main shot. But whenever I want to sit down and take the load off, right, or I'm doing a Zoom meeting or I'm in Discord, I will disconnect it from here and reconnect it to this bottom quick claw that's on the same cheese plate, right, running from behind, which is going to give me a secondary angle, which is more like dead on top of the Rodecaster Pro. It just hovers right above that and allows me to sit down, and yet I'm still in the correct frame. So that's exactly what I'm utilizing right now to basically float my camera and have my entire setup. Oh, and then just to finalize, because the camera is being held up through the top part, which is why I had mentioned before that my cage on the A6600, that's why I have the quick claw connected there, because that's what was supporting it. At the same time, I put a quick claw underneath, which is what's holding up the monitor for the teleprompter, and that was able to be connected right there. And if I wanted to disconnect it, it's a quick disconnect. So as you can see, that's my monitor and stand, allowing me to disconnect and break down my entire setup. But it also allowed me to basically disconnect all of that quickly away from the A6100, which was normally there, and allow me to quickly place the FX30 so that we can test it out. And that's basically how I have my camera set up. It is my idea, yeah, my creation on how to make a floating tripod. The other cool thing about it, which was the reason why I did it mostly, I can give you an illustration with my overhead cam. So if I grab something and I'm showing you on my overhead cam, I also have the ability to rock and knock into my desk. And because that camera is on my desk, as you can see now, everything is shaking. When I first started doing my live streams, I had the camera floating connected off of my desk frame itself. So whenever I would knock into it or slightly like lean on it or anything, then this camera that was connected to it would also shake like that. Once I put it onto the wall, it disconnected my camera from my desk itself, so I'm able to hit it, and now even though my desk shakes, as you can see in the image, it looks like an earthquake, oh, right, my monitor shakes, everything in here, the light can shake, everything, right? But at the same time, while all of that is shaking, the camera and the image that you're seeing is not shaking. So that was another added reason why I wanted to separate that, and then I attached it to the wall. It's basically like anchored to the floor. And then to finalize, give you another one, I have my mic arm here, right? And my mic arm is basically separated as well. So this is my main desk, so that I have the ability to knock into my desk and not have that sound reverberate through the microphone because it's connected to the boom arm. I've actually connected my boom arm on a separate table adjacent to it, so it's over here. So this would be the one that would need to be like knocked into, and as you can see, as soon as I do that, my monitor in the background, the microphone starts shaking because it's attached to that. So it allows me to be myself, to be very Puerto Rican, speak with my hands, right, knock into the table, lean on things, and just be me without the fear of knocking into a microphone, having that make a sound, or knocking into my cameras and having the whole world shake like there's an earthquake. So that's a little bit more of the BTS of my setup. You see, I might use these clips for that video that I need to make for Tom, you know, by the way. Oh, Paul just said, he's clapping, says you made your Amazon wish list. I did. And he already put it in chat. Bro, you're amazing, man. There you go. We got Nano says, I need to mindful that, Luis. It doesn't mean me. What? I didn't understand that, but I'll get that eventually, probably. Says, I can see your individual hairs. Are you serious? Is it that much of a difference? I don't think so. I think you can see it before. Paul's laughing at Aubrey, most likely. Nano says, I miss my iPhone XR. Yeah, actually, the iPhone XR is a broken one, right? I've mentioned this before, but a lot of times we have these amazing smart devices that maybe just aged out because of certain softwares and things like that. The iPhone XR, this one is kind of from my previous employment or my previous business where I would do iPhone repairs. And this one was a client's phone that no matter how many screens I would replace on it, like the internals were shot, and whenever you tried to use a touch functionality, it wasn't doing what you were asking, and it would cause ghost issues where it would start opening applications on its own, basically butt dialing people without you even touching the screen. So for that fact, it could no longer be used as a touch device or a phone because of that feature. Now it still had a perfectly working camera, and because of it, I'm able to utilize that aspect. And because I'm not using the touch screen, I'm able to just hang it and connect it via their USB cable, and that connection allows me to then utilize the camera with eCam in cahoots, so to speak, and works with either your continuity cam that's built into the iPhone, or like in my case where I use Camo to get a better feed and more control over that. Now, if you are using the continuity cam and that's your main camera, you could also use Camo or vice versa so that you can have a second camera. And believe it or not, a lot of these cameras are more than adequate. And if you have a old iPhone that's just laying around in a drawer and you're not using it, you can definitely easily attach it to your setup with eCam and have another camera, an overhead camera or something like that, for something that's basically just collecting dust and rotting away in a drawer. So take it out, make it part of your setup, and you can get a lot of use out of it. I've gotten lots of miles out of that broken iPhone XR. Jim says, I'm very excited for the studio video. You see, that's another person. So now that's two people. I have to make this video. Now, you know what, something else I have to do? I have to edit videos because there's a lot of content that's already recorded in my computer, and I need to get to, chopping that broccoli. Ernesto is in the house, my favorite text, saying, hi, Luis. How are you doing, sir? Thanks for hanging out on this birthday FX30 live stream. It says, I agree. YouTube and Netflix is all I have. Streaming services that I add up quickly with too many of them. Absolutely, because they're all asking you for like $10, $15 like this. Pretty soon, you have like 4 or 5 of those, and you're paying just the same amount that you were for Comcast, right? And things like that. So I remember when I used to have Comcast for my internet service provider, and they would do all those bundle packages, and I'd pay a little more, but I'd get all these extra channels. And when I came to realize, like, I wouldn't ever use them. Like, I would never use the TV as a TV. I would always use it either as a connection to like a gaming console, or a connection to a computer itself, or I would be airplaying something from my phone. And God knows how many times I did that. I would do that just honestly as having control, like, for like, if I lost a remote control back in the day, like, I would just be like, okay, I'm just gonna stream it from my phone, because if I wanted to play, pause, or do anything, fast forward, it was on my phone and I was already sitting on the couch with it. So many different things that you can do, but that's just, I guess, the way my mind works and the way I always utilize it. Edutainment is my favorite. Mine too. Like, it's almost hard for me now, right, to just watch something for entertainment purposes only. It's so weird, and that's the power of YouTube. Like, I want to watch something that's entertainment and I'm learning something constantly. Like, that's a dopamine hit that I'm constantly feeding, constantly. Says, clarify, YouTube is not premium. Yeah, I think it is, right? Yeah, that's what my YouTube says on the top. Like, because I pay for it, it doesn't say YouTube, it says premium, right? So I pay for YouTube premium, and that's the $15 thing. But like I said, I have the family plan, which is the premium at $26, but for up to 6 accounts. Hey, Randy made it as well, saying hey guys. Says, yep, the little joystick. Aubrey saying the little joystick on the laptop. Yeah, those little red joysticks. The FX30 has one on top. And the funny thing is that it has that same little like stippling on it. So it looks like an oversized mouse from back in the day. But for whatever reason, I was just like, okay, I didn't think about it. It didn't click until I started messing with it. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you can click up on this. I was like, oh my God. So it just even adds to the customization of what you can do with it. So. Jim's got it. The track point. Exactly. So you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, once again, the FX30 has one on top right next to the record button. And I was like, oh. And here's a shout out to Randy. Actually, he's the one who sent me the information last week, but also to Kevin Cox, because I was looking for that feature to create the shutter button in the video mode to record, and obviously it was in the menu and I hadn't found it, but they both helped me find it, including Randy, and that makes it so much easier. So now that I'm behind the camera, I'm able to just click the shutter button where my finger is naturally, and it starts doing the video recording without having to go like to the back or, you know, to the big record button. And you know what? I gotta check. Excuse me. I gotta check to see if we could actually change that as well, because apparently, like all the cameras, all the Sony cameras, you can customize all the buttons. But that one's a big red record dedicated button. So even if you can't change that one, I kind of figure, but I'm gonna find out to see if you can. Yep, the red joysticks on the logo. I'm glad that I'm not alone. You guys knew exactly what I was talking about when I mentioned it. Sammy made it. He's in the house saying hello to everyone. Thank you, Obs. I don't know exactly what you meant about that, but I appreciate it. So your setup is next level. Thank you. And that's not even including all of the magnets and stuff that I've added, you know? Because the metal aspect of this with the magnets allow me to make little hooks and cable guides, so to speak, and I'm able to just attach them and kind of get them out of the way. You know what's the funny part? This entire desk I created out of the like garage department, right? In the garage organization department in IKEA. And I think I've had this thing for 15 plus years. Like, I don't think you can find any of this hardware at IKEA anymore. And I should look into it because I could expand upon it, like, you know, almost like a custom drum set, you know, like custom cage drum set that, you know, you would be able to just expand upon it. Like, that's basically the way that I've set up my desk. Like, I can make it higher or lower. I can reconfigure and change it. I have done it quite a few times, you know. I used to have a desk, to show you, like, I used to have a desk that would hover right here so that I would have like my keyboard, and then I would have like a big 32-inch television as my monitor sitting on top. Now I completely changed, and now I have smaller monitors that are off here to the sides, which I'm able to, you know, reconfigure and change the location of where and how I want that set up. Because that's also another thing. I have 2 monitors, another one identical. You can see the same branding and style and everything. And what I do is that when I go into my editing mode, in my editing mode, I actually remove the camera from the center section with those same quick connections, right? And I just put it off to the side, and then I pull both of my monitors together, right? And they have them like meet in the middle so that I can use like a long timeline and the dual LCDs or dual displays for my editing workflow, which helps a lot. Kevin's in the house as well saying what's up. I've been busy, not have had a lot of free time to stop by your live stream. Hey, I understand, but I just want you to know that, you know, you're always appreciated and that you've been missed. Says, thank you for showing me your setup and how to hold up the main cam. I have a similar space issue. Brilliant. Hey, there you go, man. Utilize it. I made a like a YouTube short like a long time ago about it. You understand? About how I had my camera set up and how I used to have it with the, you know, articulating arms or those magic arms, but I had it connected off of the metal frame. But if you would touch the camera at all, it would then start to shake just like everything else. So the trick was get it off of the frame, put it on the wall, and now you have your wall mounted tripod. Says the Ulanzi claw is awesome. It is, bro. And you know what's the funny thing? Like, I just bought, oh, that fell. Okay. You know what? I was gonna grab it later, but then I remembered I have an Aiden, so I had to pick that up before he got to it. But I just picked up another one, right? I just picked up another one to add it to my collection, and I literally mean like this past week, because I was like, hey, you know what? Instead of disconnecting one of the two that I have here, right, for my quick change setup, I was like, I know I'm gonna use it, so I was like, let me just go ahead and pick it up. And the reason why I bring this up is because if you've used these before, then you know the kind of system that's on the inside as far as the 1/4-20 thread, and they changed it. So now they have one that's rounded out and it has knurling around like the big screw head, allowing you to utilize the quick claw on a lot of 1/4-20s without having to use a tool. So now you don't need like a hex or anything like that. Like, you can get pretty good just with the hand knurling because they've extended the height, so it kind of sticks out a little bit more. But then it does something else, because if you've had these, then you know this is the problem, and it becomes a pain if you've used these, which is, this is what changed. So the bottom here, right, you see it's got the flat head, but it also has this little dangly clip, right? That will allow you to like hand tighten it, but then when you want to get it like good and tight, then you need to, you know, use the flathead, so to speak. Now it's basically the size of this now with knurling all around, allowing you to get your fingers around the sides. And what it does is that it removes that little moving flap, because the worst thing that happens is that when that flap hangs down, you see how it's hanging down just underneath here? That little difference in space, right? That little dangly thing will not allow you to quick connect. It will just block you because it can't compress. So as you're trying to press down on it, if you can see how it rocks right there. And I know this is first world problems, don't get me wrong, but if you've ever tried to put this on a tripod and that thing is there, you can press down with all your might and it is not going to clip on, because you have that little bump, little extra piece of metal sticking out right there. So you have to make sure that it's flat so that then this can click without any issues. And now they've removed that pain in the butt aspect of the quick claw. So even, you know, they look the same, but they're still innovating to make it even better. Absolutely highly recommend the quick claw. All right. Sammy says, hopefully you're loving the FX30. Bro, next level stuff. Oh, okay. I got it now. Thank you. It says it's very interesting how our setups are and how your setup is. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, brother. Says I got an old iPhone in the drawer. It's got a cracked screen and suffers from gross clicking issues. It drives me nuts to try to use it, even for the camera. Wow, that's bad. You know, this one at least is functioning enough where I can just leave it plugged in, and whenever I open Ecamm, all I have to do is go to my camera switcher and make sure that it's active. It turns on and I don't have an issue. So very cool that you got an FX30 for your birthday. And I did for mine. Oh, that's cool, man. Hey, thanks. Happy birthday. Yes, and it is my birthday. And going back to it, we're gonna get to that list right now. It says, yes, create your desk as you want it. Well done. Thank you, thank you. So yes, Mr. Duncan has put it in the chat so you guys can follow along if you like. But you know what? Let's go over here. Let's see if we can do this. Boom. And yes, and here we are. This is my first ever Amazon birthday list, right? And if you guys want to partake, hey, this is a way that you guys can send me some of the things that I'm looking to kit out for my FX30, because whoa, am I gonna do something with it. Now, Mr. Caleb Pike actually has a setup for the FX30, and he's had a variety of different videos. He actually has been doing a lot of 3D printing and selling a lot of his setups, and what I was looking to do was just go ahead and, you know, pick up one of those, and at the same time support a content creator that I actually admire and, you know, actually want to support, because like I've said before, my soul MacGyver, this dude, you know, we think on a similar wavelength, so to speak, but has more access to more items and has been able to just take it to that next level, which has led him to creating exact 3D printed items designed to like take your FX30 or your FX3 and make it a full camera cinema rig. Now he's selling these things on his other like website. It's called Camera Foundry. Now I went to go look for his stuff to support, and they're all sold out. Like, and that's how popular they are. But at the same time, I took it upon myself, because Mr. Paul Duncan had mentioned it, to create a list so that I can create my own, which, just like my desk and like Simply Obs was just saying that, you know, make it the way that I want it, I can go out and buy it. But with your support, I just put a list together of the things that I'm going to eventually buy to kit out my FX30. And if you guys want to help out, you know, no pressure, but I put it together so that you guys have an ability to do so if you so please. So I'm also gonna just go through it, because if you guys want to kind of do this for a camera for yourself, I'm gonna just run through it so that you can see kind of like my mindset of what I'm doing now. The way that the list is set up, I kind of started from the back, so to speak, because it was the way that my mind is going. So we're going to start at the back of the list. So the first thing, of course, would be a cage. So a small rig cage for the FX30, right? Which basically is going to do that, the same thing that it has, but give us an ability to have like that Picatinny rail, I think it's called, on the top. We use it for others, but so like that rail on top, which is gonna come useful, but it's also detachable if you have the XLR mic hand, which is where the difference comes in for me a little bit, because the Caleb Pike Camera Foundry one, it's not coming into play with the XLR microphone, which is a accessory that I do have for the FX30, right? So I'm thinking about creating this, but also making it, like I said, my own. So first thing off is a camera cage. Next thing that I'm gonna be needing is a couple of these you know, plates. So this nicey rig, well, the first one, the universal plate, and the second one, we'll just open those here, right? The first one, this is the full size plate. So this is basically gonna be attached to the bottom of that cage, and we're gonna use a couple of different screws so that it elongates the body, but gives us a structure to actually build upon, right? And so, or start adding things to it. So this is the structure that we're going to need underneath, and then one on top, right, which is the next one. And the difference is that this one's a bit shorter. So this is actually coming in from where the other one ends, but also leaving the ability or the space for the XLR connection at the top. So knowing that I have the top and the bottom kind of set up, I still need to put the connections or the things that are going to be placed in, you know, in between. And that's Well, one of the next things that we're going to need is a V-mount battery, because that's also another thing that I noticed. Now, maybe Sammy could attest to this, but the FX30 has a built-in fan to prevent it from overheating, which is great. But as long as the camera's on, the fan is also going to be on. Now, there's ways to, turn it off and only have it used while it's recording and different things like that I haven't got to it. But in a nutshell, it's using up a lot more battery than my A6600 and things like that because of the continuous motion of the fan. Now, with that being said, we're building out a camera rig, like a cinema type rig. We're gonna need a battery, and that's where this guy comes into play, and this piece as well. So first is the small rig battery, right? The VB99, which is a good size V-mount battery, but also has connections for USB-C and everything built in, so it gives you the ability to connect other peripherals that you're going to want to attach with this setup to it and have one power source coming from this one battery. Next to it, we're also going to put a small rig D-tap, right? Because you have a D-tap connection directly from that battery. And what you'd be able to do is then bypass the battery that you have in the FX30 or any Z-type, the FZ100 type batteries, which are the bigger ones for Sony's full frame. These guys right here, right? And now it bypasses that, and now you're using that big V-mount battery directly to it. So in a nutshell, that now becomes the camera rig's power source. Okay. Small little matte box on top. That's just so that we can control light, and also gives us the ability to add filters, and some good ND filters. If you're going to be kitting it out as a cinema camera, then this is also going to do a couple of things, which is going to give you that shade. So it's going to allow you to control light coming in from a variety of different directions. Now, you would see that there's a lot of these, matte boxes, so to speak, that have flaps on the sides as well to control the light even more. Well, what this one does is that it has like a 360 functionality. So for instance, if you got light coming in from the right side, you'd be able to just kind of shift it and then kind of place it vertical, where that shade will now be blocking out the light in the correct place. So another small rig part, but it's a circular filter setup, but also gives it that extra, that je ne sais quoi look to your camera rig and setup. Okay, these go together, which is a rosette mount and a rosette handle. Okay, let's open those up. So this, as you can see, has got two screws on the top right over here. Those two screws allow you to mount it directly onto your camera, or in this case to the camera cage, and then it gives you your rosette mount. Now the rosette mount, as you can see, has all these little grooves because it allows you to get fine tuning as far as the angle that you want. Once you've mounted this to your camera cage, then the next part is to mount the handle. As you can see, this part right here is where you would screw it on to get that fine tooth, so to speak, angle that you want with your camera handle. It also is a big chunky wooden handle that gives you a good grip on this soon to be much heavier than normal camera rig, because we're adding all this metal and everything to it is definitely going to add the weight, which you're going to want to have a good handle on. Okay, now we have our XLR, but then as you can see, this is a NATO handle. So that's basically the NATO rail that I had called Picatinny. The NATO rail on the top, this is the handle for it, so that you have the option to still have a handle if you want to make it a bit smaller than with the XLR. If at the moment you're using wireless audio and the XLR unit is not being utilized, then you might want to have it off at the moment, because just like I mentioned before with the fan, having just the XLR unit connected, even if not being utilized, is still powering up that unit to recognize that it's being connected, which will then start draining your battery even faster. So depending on the situation and the scenario, you might not want to be utilizing the XLR handle. So this is an additional handle that gives you a lot of functionality, and which will then come into play when we're going to be attaching a monitor, right? A monitor, so that we're not utilizing the LCD screen from the FX30. Okay. Paul, are you calling me? I'm getting a call from Riverside, California. I don't even think that's where you're at, but from what I see here, audio and everything's going good, so I don't think we're having an issue. Very interesting that I'm getting a phone call. No, but why would no? Look at me. I'm catching myself in this one. I have Paul as a contact. If you would be calling me, I would see it. So, anyways. All right. Okay, that was definitely a text message. I tell you guys this all the time. You guys do not believe me that I say till today I get messages for my iPhone repair business. Okay, and that's exactly what was happening. Somebody was calling me from Riverside, California, and they left me a message that says, "Hi, are you still in business?" That's the message right there. "Hi, are you still in business?" And I'm like, unfortunately not, especially on a Saturday during my live streams. Like, that's not gonna happen. So there you go. All right, let's continue. Oh, this is another V-mount battery. This is a different option. So this is the actual mount to the camera. So this is the way that you would actually clip it, but then this also gives you more ports to connect more peripherals, like I was saying, the HD monitor, different things that you might need if you're powering up an SSD, a variety of different things. But this is a connection that has D-tap. It has 8-volt, 3 amps. As you can see, it's got a variety of different connections, including USB-C and Q20 connections, so that you can, mount it. And it being V-mountable, right, or V-mount, it's going to be taking it directly from the battery, so it still frees up the other ports that the battery still has. Okay, this is a base plate, but it's not really going to be utilized as a base plate, and this is just my mind. As you can see, this has quite a variety of Q20s surrounding it, so this is actually going to be like the walls of my setup. So this is what's going to be filling in the in-between space, right, as we build it out, and has, of course, Q20s in and out to actually connect. So that's just like a Lego piece to this, so to speak. This is basically another cheese plate, which is kind of the same thing, just another Lego piece building block, right? I think I put that one there because I'm not sure. Oh no, that's the other side. That was basically the other wall that I'm thinking. So as far as, we had the bottom cheese plate, the top cheese plate, we have the V-mount clip that's going to go on the side. The one that I had just shown here, the small base plate, is basically to attach that V-mount to the bottom plate. And then this small rig cage is the one that I'm going to put on its side to basically cover the right side, which is where I would actually be mounting the before mentioned rosette, right? So that's where I would be putting the handle on the camera to get that better control from the backside. Okay, and I continue. Now we have a base plate. Oh, that was what I was trying to do. Click here. This goes together. Let's make another window. There we go. This and this. All right. So these three things go together. First is the base plate. So this is gonna go underneath the cheese plate, which is where you can mount your, like your connections or for your tripods, rails, and different things like that. Your Arca Swiss mounts, all of that is where you would be putting it underneath of this base plate. But the most important part of this small rig base plate is that it has the space or the clamps for the 15mm rods, which is where we're gonna take this camera rig to the next level. So once we've built out the top, bottom, sides of this camera rig, now underneath it we're going to be attaching this setup, which then gives us the ability to connect these 15mm rods, as we can see here. So these are the small rig 15mm rods, right? And you'll be able to clamp them, and those rods will like poke out from both the front and the back. Why do we want rods? Well, because it allows us to utilize different mounting points, right, to connect those rods to a variety of different things like V mounts, once again, HD monitors, anything. And now we can take these and attach them to that same rail system. So the distance between the 15mm rods on the base plate match perfectly to these, and now you'd be able to mount them in the front and the back to attach more accessories and then easily move them within the rails to get that right size. Why would you want this? Well, that's going to come into play in a little bit, because we're going to need to support pretty heavy cinema lenses, right? And when you're dealing with cinema lenses on a cinema camera, then there's going to be added weight that you're going to need to support, which is going to be done not by the actual mount of the camera, right? We don't want to put the stress on the camera mount, so we built the rig underneath with the two rods that are going to stick out, so that when we have a big lens attached to our cameras, then we're able to take these, connections and put them from underneath and attach a support system to hold said camera lens. On top of that, it will then allow us to connect something like this, which is a small rig follow focus. Now, this is a attachment, as you can see, also gets attached to that same 15mm rod, which will allow us to utilize older and a variety of different cinema cameras, but also like our vintage manual focus cameras, because you're actually taking the focus ring away from the lens itself and applying it to a knob on the side. Now, this is one of the latest iterations, which is really cool because it is a geared setup. As you can see, this is the old school like small rig gear, where you would then have to utilize this setup and then put a gear ring onto your actual lens. Now, the one that I have here, as you can see, has that gear. Where's it going here? It has that gear, but then it has like this little rubber grommet on top of it, which is designed for a lot of our new cameras, right? That have, focus by wire, which is not an actual physical aspect. So just like this lens right here, the Sigma, right, I'll be able to rotate the focus ring infinitely because it doesn't have a hard stop, because it's not physically attached to the lenses. It's focused by wire, or basically saying by electricity or wire connection. So when you have this system, this is ideal, because this just basically snugs up against this, or basically any manual lens, and uses the rubber and the friction between the pressure applied to it without having to utilize a gear on your lens. So it's a new like iteration of the follow focus setup. So that's something that I'm definitely going to be picking up and putting up on that setup to attach with it. Now, these two go together. Let's go ahead there. And this is my small rig mount. As you can see, is just a, what is it? The 5/16 to 1/4-20 basically connection adaptation. The 5/16 being a bigger, sturdier, allows you to attach it to like like I had mentioned before, the handle, right, the non XLR handle, and then it allows you to connect an HD monitor like this new Desk View R6 5.5 inch. So this will then allow me to connect this high-end monitor to the camera via the HDMI and get a nice high fidelity and high brightness. This guy is 2800 nits. You can be in broad daylight and you're going to see what's on your screen with no issues at 2800 nits at a 5.5 inch monitor. Now, Desk View is actually the same brand that I'm using right now for my teleprompter. This guy right here, that's my Desk View. So at the same time, it's a brand that I trust and it's a newer model. So this is the one that I'm going to be picking up for me. It's got good enough resolution because even though it's receiving a 4K signal, it's going to be producing or showing you a 1080 signal. Now, 1080 at 5.5 inches is going to look like 8K. It's just because of the pixel density and everything like that, to have so many, you know, like pixels and so much information in such a small space. Now, the bigger you blow up the screens, the more pixel density you're going to have, so to speak, to get that same type of resolution. But I digress. 1080p at 2800 nits, this is a killer monitor to attach to basically any setup, because the conditions of where you're recording are not going to limit you to what you'll be able to see with your recordings. And yep, and then just a couple of nuances, right? Now, I also put a Condor Blue $20 18 gigabyte per second high fidelity HD, so that there will be no issues with the information that you're receiving out of the camera. But this is also great if you're using like a Ninja V, you know, monitor, which also has capability of recording internally. So you're gonna want a high quality, high gigs per second cable, and this one's from Condor Blue for 20 bucks is almost like a no-brainer. And that's what's gonna allow me to connect that monitor to the camera. And then just a couple of other things. This is an option, right? This is a quarter 20 edition, right? So let's say I am using the XLR, but I still need to use my monitor. This is just an addition to the XLR, which will then give me the quarter 20 attachments that I want, allowing me to connect, you know, the HD monitor to the top part of the XLR, so that I'm getting the best of both worlds. And last but not least is a Sony Tough Card. Now, I was also gifted a C-type CF Express Type A card onto the FX30, but I'm going to pair it with a Sony SD card as the backup for the second slot on the camera. So that's basically where I have it set up. The CF Express card gives full access to the FX30, so whenever I'm recording, there is no limitations on codec or frame rate. So this bad boy records at 4K 120 at 10-bit 422 log. Like, this thing's a monster. So, you know, now when it comes to just simplifying it and having a backup, a 256 gigabyte card is ideal. And this is the Sony Tough Card SDs, which kind of finishes up my birthday camera list. So like I said, everyone, like, there's no pressure, right? But if you guys do want to help a brother out, so to speak, for his birthday, I put together a list. But also just know that this is something that you guys could go back to and reference on your own, so that if you're thinking about, like, how did Mr. Camera Junkie think about setting up his camera rig, so on and so forth, as far as the peripherals and the cage itself, that's basically it in a nutshell. And that's what I'm going to be, you know, like, those are going to be my next purchases for this setup. I'm really going to kit it out because I still have an amazing camera, right? This A6100 is is still such a great camera, and it is going to be the staple of my live stream. It's what I'm going to have here connected, because I'm going to take full advantage of the FX30 and have it set up as a camera rig, allowing me to get the most out of it. And like I said, most likely we're not getting the most out of the 10-bit 422 codec using it at a live stream connected to a cam link, and that's just being completely upfront. This camera right here, the 6100, is more than adequate for that setup. But now when it comes to recording externally on the fly and getting the most out of the machine, and for the projects that I have lined up, I definitely want to have like a run and gun mobile unit with a nice big battery, so that I don't have to worry about swapping out batteries the entirety of the day. A nice V-mount battery, cage setup, and with all the screws that I have already, all my quarter 20s, all my connections, I have plenty to put this together and start really rocking out a lot of great content. So once again, thanks to Randy for such an amazing gift, and I'm definitely going to be putting it to maximum use. And I'll be doing it with that setup. And thanks again, Mr. Paul Duncan, for sharing that list with the crew. Kevin is here saying, my biggest annoyance with those claws is the part that's attached to the cameras always ended up crooked, and it drives me up the wall. I swear to you, I hadn't even seen that comment, and I had to mention it, because you see, those of us who use that claw, we know the annoyance of that little flap that just doesn't allow it. And that's so funny. I went on that rant on that soliloquy. I promise you guys, man, like, if you can see my setup, I cannot see that comment. Like, oh my God. Thanks, Sammy, saying happy birthday to me. I see if there's anything that I might already have for the FX30. Says, I love the V-mount battery. Yes. Says, I want to build a similar rig to mount my ZV-E10. You see, and that's exactly the idea that I was thinking. Like, you could put a cage and make it your own. That's also why I wanted to share that list. Talking head videos, I have yet to pull the trigger on the bigger, more pricey pieces of the rig, but slowly been collecting the hardware stuff. Exactly. And that's also why I put that list together, is like to keep me in track and be like, oh, I already got that, I can use this and I can use that. But definitely, like, the monies that I would be spending on a new camera, I'm definitely going to be spending on rigging this thing out. Paul said, Riverside, not me. It says Riverside is in social. That's funny. But no, it was just somebody looking to get a phone repair. And that's the funny thing. Like, they're calling from California, meaning they're in South Florida for the moment. They don't probably have access to anything outside or in their home, because they're in this state. And I'm the one who's still coming up either on, like online, or most likely this was a word of mouth type of situation, because that's what's been most consistent, that people who have used me before in the past just have me saved as the Mr. Fix It, and whenever they have a friend or a situation, they're like, hey, I got this guy, hit him up, he's gonna fix you up. And that's when I start getting these random phone calls at 10:30 on a Saturday night to see if I'm still in business. Is like, nope. You need a phone fixed? Yep. Am I still in business? Nope. Oh, Gretchen's here saying, hey, Lewis, checking in from the road somewhere near Death Valley. Happy birthday, my friend. Thank you so very much for stopping by. It's so appreciated. You taking just the time to hang out with us here, even if it's just for a short time. Kevin says he's curious to see what you're able to see in Northern Lights tomorrow from there. Some photos in Orange County. Got a few shots last night. All right. Kevin says, I need to make this list as an affiliate as well. Duly noted, right? Point taken. I got to do it. Oh, that's, you see, it says the wish list is an affiliate links. Okay, so that's cool. Okay, I guess, right? If you're gonna put it into your cart directly from my list, I think they know where you got it. So makes sense. He said it perfectly. When you click on the wish list, it triggers an affiliate link. That's awesome. All right. Says when you're ready, you can chat about S-Log. Also, Josh and Coffee have great videos on the FX30. Okay. Jim says you may need to add an address to your birthday wish list. It doesn't look like there's any way to ship it to you. Okay. Well, thank you for that bit of information. Let me see if I can do that right now. Let me just see if I can fix that, because just giving you the bit of information, right? I'm thinking Amazon already has my address. Like, it's already built in. Okay, so let me see what aspect you guys, let me see, show you what I'm seeing here. There we go. So I'm going to go over here to more, manage lists. I made it public. What is this? Don't spoil my surprise. Oh, it says shipping address none. Okay. Let me not dox myself, even though I think I just did. I might have to clip that out, but not too worried. Okay, let me go back to this screen. Okay. The address has been added. You see, I really don't make these things. I'm just being upfront with you guys. Like, I probably wouldn't have put together if it wasn't for the amazing Mr. Paul Duncan to have me do it and mention it to me last week. So if you guys are going to take part, thank you ahead of time. I'm just letting you know. And if something were to come my way, I will also make sure to address it from the person who gifted it to me. You know, going back to last week's conversation, the gift of giving, well, the gift of gifting, right? So, yeah, and that's where we're at. So now that we're here, now we got to finalize everything up, because we're definitely past the hour speaking about it, right? Let me check. Battery still 100% on the FX30 with the trickle charge. But here we go. Click here, click there. City's gone. Channels that I think you should go and watch. And this week we have none other than Mr. Matt Bone. Now, if you haven't heard of Matt Bone, let me be the first one to introduce you to an amazing content creator and an amazing cinematographer. This guy makes cinema. This guy makes movies. And, you know, lucky for us, he has a YouTube channel where he shares a lot of amazing advice. Now, this guy is full on filmmaker, right? This is what he does. And I'm falling short for words, because he's just such an amazing creator. Now, he's going to give you insights, not so much on the gear, but on the creation process. And if you can see some of the videos that are highlighted right here on top, like questions to ask clients before shooting, these are the types of subjects that Mr. Matt Bone actually covers a lot. He also has some courses where he could teach you everything from the structures of creating the content by using the camera gear, but he gives you more of an in-depth look on the behind the scenes of what it really takes to be a creative. So I highly recommend his content. He's I feel an amazing educator when it comes to the camera and cinema space. And I can't recommend him enough for a lot of different aspects when it comes to like the behind the scenes. Like the questions and the conversations that not everyone is having, especially in the industry. This is someone who's working in the industry day in and day out, and for that reason I highly recommend you looking into his content. So if you haven't done so already and you're hearing of him for the first time, once again, let me introduce to you this week's Cities Gaw channels that I think you should go and watch. None other than Mr. Matt Bone. And that's it. We've done it, everyone. We hit those buttons and we've completed episode 180. There we go. Episode 180 of the Camera Junkie live stream. That, you heard it correct. 180 consecutive weeks of the Camera Junkie live stream without skipping a beat. Now, if you're thinking, could this possibly be happening next week? Well, duh, it's going to happen. But next week, I have to give a little bit of information. I will be on the road one way or another. I will be at my sister's wedding, which is happening on the 18th, a week from today. So even though it's a Camera Junkie live stream, it's going to be happening one way or another. Not sure what time I'm going to get back home to see if I'm going to be in this setup. But if not, I will be doing something from on the road, straight from my phone, to give you guys a behind the scenes look of what's happening, at the wedding. So if you're up for it, mark it on your calendars. 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday without skipping a beat. So the wedding live stream, episode 181, will happen next week, and I can't wait to see all of your smiling faces there when we do it together. Now, as always, I got to thank every single one of you for hanging out here and making this my favorite place to be week in and week out. This community is what drives the Camera Junkie live stream, and I can't thank you all enough because you guys make this happen. And with your help, we'll be doing it all over again next week and the week after that and that and that and so on and so forth. So mark it on your calendars. Camera Junkie live stream every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I can't wait to see all of your smiling faces as we do it all over again next week right here on the Camera Junkie YouTube channel. Talk to you.